Now, you've both made great points, and I think that the main issue is the fact we've all been sort of forced to work remotely globally at the one time because of this pandemic. The choice has been taken out of our hands to some degree. But I just want to touch on the security aspect. Obviously, both of you guys work for very large companies, and security would be a very important aspect of that. So how has that transition been in terms of making sure the company and your employees are secure when you're moving from a traditional work environment to a virtual workplace?
All right, let me take again. As I said, I'm working for the bank. Of course, we think about all these possibilities all the time, but put the bank aside, back to my Microsoft days, where I used to visit many different type of customers, such as Emaar or you name it, anybody who can afford Microsoft, basically, as a cybersecurity consultancy. I had two types of customers. I mean, forget about this. I'm pretty sure you heard about the names James Comey, who used to be the ex-FBI director. He says there is two types of organizations. One, they know they've been hacked, and two, they don't. So it is like, I keep this saying, like if Georgia, Adelaide, and Tatiana walking, forget about being in Dubai. Let's say you're in New York City, okay, which is, you know, it has very safe place and it has some dark places as well. And suddenly there is nobody in the street, and you see two-person which is really not looking that nice, you know, personal instinct. Of course, we don't judge people by their look. Yeah. They look at your back, you know what I mean? What will you do? You will usually hold your back. Yes, that instinct where you try to hold your back bit under your arm a bit more, you know, straight, right? So they can grab it. Being in cybersecurity, this is what I always tell. This is how I live, being like a psychopath, expecting the unexpected anytime. Because I always believe the hackers are, you know, while, for example, I work in company X, which has X many thousand employees, X many thousand servers, desktops, laptops, phones, applications. The hacker needs to find just one vulnerability, one application to attack one component which can bring you down. And name me a company who was not hacked and who was not in the news. Again, of course, we're not going to do it here. It's been recorded. But you can easily go to Bing or Google, you know, just type hack and you will see all those companies being hacked.
Exactly.
So it's our job, right, Tatiana, to ensure we foresee possible attacks. We watch our neighbors. It's really important. Like, I'm pretty sure you remember what happened a few months ago in Australia. When the fire first started, our dear Prime Minister, okay, he ignored it. He said, it's just a fire, happens every year in Australia, which it does, okay? But it started to get so big, we couldn't control it. It went out of control. So if there is a fire in the next building, all right, you better, or in your neighbor, let's assume you live in a villa. Even if you don't like your neighbor, let's assume you have personal issues, you better go and help, because the fire can easily jump into your building. Example, coronavirus. You like me or not, you better ensure I'm locked at home and I don't come and see you. So I don't, or we are not in the same bus, not in the same room. I mean, even if you like each other, it's not about how clean you are. It's about how we can disable the
virus
infectivity, right?
Yeah.
So back to cybersecurity. I mean, it's like Corona. If we put the right measures, I don't think so we have to be afraid. But unfortunately, again, being more than 20 years in the industry, I wrote so many books. Even I do some silly mistakes because I'm a human. And, you know, 99% of the attacks starts because of human mistakes. Tatiana?
I think Listen, I think we preach ourselves for being something we call positively paranoid in Emaar. So sometimes this could sound like an oxymoron, but we are positively paranoid, meaning that although we do our best, you always some things are inevitable, and security breaches could be inevitable. The problem here is what we're talking about is security breaches in the terms that someone is trying to breach your own system. The second part of the situation is, do we actually have such a tight link in employees when you're talking about 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 employees working from home? What's the level of trust we have in each other to the fact that we are not the ones who actually start the security breach? What do I mean with that? So the fact that I'm kind of always the devil's advocate when it comes to these things in office. So if we think like, why do we actually trust our employees enough to send them home? I'm one of the people who usually stands like, the voice of the people, saying, of course we do. How can you say that? And in a few examples, the most minute example, you see an internal communication that is intended to be internal, that is sent with saying internal communication, second day reaching all media platforms, being tweeted, being sent to CEOs of different companies. So these instances, these instances prove a point by evidence. So sometimes it is, yes, security breach from external people, and this is something we are always positively paranoid about, because we take all our measures from an IT security perspective. We actually obviously work with Microsoft and a number of other tech giants to assist us in this. We have a particular team looking after this all the time, but sometimes some things are inevitable, and we would be kind of ignorant saying that we are perfectly secure if the biggest companies of the world aren't perfectly secure. But we take all the measures to ensure the security, and we are always paranoid about it. So we always are expecting something to happen, and we actually have countermeasures for it. That's one part of the situation. Second part of the conversation is, unfortunately, despite the fact that this is not something we would want to believe, not every person you have out of those 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 employees is a happy employee, and an unhappy employee will take any opportunity they can to actually, they think that it's bringing it back against the company. So this is something also that I personally feel offended about, because when you work so closely for a company, you kind of feel like you're representing it. You have this ownership mindset per se. So, and this is an example that happened a month ago. So I'm not sure this is a very public thing. So there was very important, but it was internal communication sent for the benefit of line staff that usually are not communicated to. So this is where something as a security breach kind of offends the person who did it in one instance, and at the same time is a bit of a break of trust. So if you're sending this to your line staff who would usually not be communicated these things, major companies where you see the people who are your grades 1 and 2s, who are actually the people, your workers, have no idea of what's happening on the top in the decision making process. So take it, whether it's a big logistics company, that your drivers, your workers, your logistics and warehouse people will not understand what's happening at the global level within the C-suite, what decisions are being made. I work for a company that believes that sometimes communication is a good means to have this transparency, at least in some instances. So this was done a month ago, and then you have this newsletter that's supposed to be internal, saying internal communication only for the benefit of employees only. Not that it had major secrets. It's just if this something as simple as this can go everywhere and anywhere in Dubai the next day, actually a lot of places around the world, can you imagine some people, if they get the opportunity to themselves breach security, what they would do? So this is the question mark that keeps it. There is the system part of it, but there is the people part of it. So it's good to continuously build this trust to ensure that the people you have are people who are loyal to you the way you are loyal to them. So